Here we go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Vegan Business Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Fox, and today I am joined by Bonnie Brown, the co-founder of Passion Placement, and we have a last-minute guest, her co-founder, Paul Turcott. Now, Bonnie is a senior-level executive and entrepreneur with over 25 years' experience in finance, management, information systems, and business leadership. She's a CPA with extensive experience working with publicly traded, expensive, that was a Freudian slip with CPA, wasn't it? Extensive experience working with publicly traded companies, private firms, and startups. Bonnie's the founder and chief financial officer at Passion Placement, a new employment platform focused on connecting people with mission-driven organizations doing work that matters to them. Passion Placement curates every job that the platform posts to make sure member companies are in support of sustainable living, animal advocacy, or creating alternatives to animal-based products. Bonnie, welcome to the show. And also Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. So tell me, first of all, why did you decide to start Passion Placement?
So really, it grew out of my frustration. I was a CPA and a CFO for many years. And I really decided one day I needed to stop, doing what I'm doing and get back into, doing what matters to me, or doing what my skills are, but for a company that is aligned with my values, which was taking animals out of the supply chain. And, really, that's my purpose in life. That's, I think, why I was born, was to do something for the animals. So I started looking for positions of, accounting, CFO positions. And it was really difficult. There was no place to go to find these positions. I had to, figure out which companies fit my mission and, write that list down and check their websites every week to see if they had a role for me. And it was just painful. And so Paul, being the serial entrepreneur in this relationship, he just said, if you're the one, you're not the only one having this problem. And so maybe we should create it. And that's why we created it.
Well, how long did it take to create? Because I know it's quite new. It's fairly recently launched. How long did it take to put it all together?
It took, I would say maybe close to 2 years, because we had to find a developer. There's a lot of boxed job boards out there that are easy to just, get them started in a month. Yep. But I wanted this to be a place for, thousands of jobs, not just, 100 jobs. I wanted it to be the place for people to go. And so we had a vision of what we wanted. And so we found a developer that would write it in WordPress. And so that's what we did. It took quite some time to make that happen.
That's great, because I know you've touched on it there, because obviously there are some other jobs platforms now that have been launched that are global, as well as, a vegan recruitment company, vegan HR company. It's kind of all happening, which is exciting. How is Passion Placement different? I know you've touched on it, but I wonder if you can expand a little bit on how is it different to other jobs platforms? So we are, our idea is to have it all in one place and be, front and center, where the other platforms are more, they've got a following, and so they also have a job board, because it's an add-on. It's an add-on to what they're really doing. And Passion Placement more is how we're leading. And so it's become more of it's a place where people come to be coached, so the candidates can come to us, and the candidates are awesome. I get to talk to people that are mission aligned with me every day, and that's part of my joy, because now I'm not the vegan in the room at a company. I get to talk to people that are vegan every day, and they're passionate about it. So we do a lot of coaching to help people find their positions, and we do have the 1,000 jobs right now, about 1,000 jobs on our site, which, nobody else is even close to that. We've got a lot of work to do to get more, because there's so many companies out there
that, for us to get them all, we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Being, when you look at global, I mean, where we're at right now, there's a blessing in the whole COVID thing has created such a large number of remote jobs. And so we're able, we have a fellow we work with in Singapore, and, we're able to reach out and do some work globally through that remote connection, because we're not really we haven't really gotten into any market outside of the U.S. and Canada in a meaningful way, meaning into the neighborhoods or into the cities and towns and so forth. So that's obviously going to take a little bit of work.
And we also have a talent database, which is, people come to our site, candidates, and they upload their resumes. And we have people coming and uploading resumes every day. It makes me happy every day. and they'll upload their resume and put in, they enter a profile, and employers that are members on our site can actually search that database. So they can be sourcing their candidates, their applicants right from our site. And we also can do that, for employers that want us to do it for them.
Okay, so let's talk about how the platform works. So how does it work in terms of, if you're a job seeker, are there fees for job seekers? Are there fees for employers? Like, how does it work? Because I'm guessing, I know this is called passion placement, but I'm assuming it's not a passion project. You've turned it into a business. So how does it work in order for you to make it financially sustainable?
It's a bit of a passion project. So there are no fees to the candidate, except if they're coming for coaching, and that's on an hourly basis. So what we do, the first 20 minutes of an initial consultation with anybody, and after that, then it's an hourly rate. So in those hourly rates, I can help them with their resume. I can help them find themselves. A lot of them are just trying to find what is it that I'm good at. It's amazing. Every conversation is different. So that's the only way that a candidate would pay is if they wanted some specific coaching. Employers are buying membership plans. So in the membership plans are really dependent on how many jobs they think they're going to need to fill in a year or in 6 months. They're I think relatively inexpensive plans, and some of them give them access to the resume database, and we also will do their sourcing in our resume database for them. We'll do applicant screening for them. We're really trying to help the employer be streamlined and be efficient in their hiring process, and let them get back to doing the job that they're trying to do, which is take animals out of the supply chain. We want to take that off of their plate and let them be efficient. So
there's different plans, from a basic pay to advertise the job, and then it kind of goes up from there depending on the kind of help that they need from you.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. And did you say, are they mainly US jobs or US based jobs, or
it's US and Canada right now, based in the US and Canada. We do have someone in Singapore, but that one's sort of a
remote jobs can be
remote jobs can be
yeah. Right, got it.
Right. So we had to start somewhere.
Of course, absolutely. So tell us about, you say you've got 1,000 jobs. I mean, that's pretty cool, considering it's only US and Canada. Obviously, I'm saying only, obviously US and Canada is big, but still 1,000 jobs, for just those markets alone, I think is great. Tell us a little bit about the types of jobs that you're typically seeing being advertised at the moment. What are employers looking for at the moment?
So it's a huge range. There's an awful lot of marketing positions that I'm seeing coming up, and HR positions, which I think is interesting. People are hiring. There's one company that's hiring compensation analysts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a new one.
Specialist.
Yeah, and people that are bringing in-house recruiting. But a lot of it, I am finding a lot of marketing jobs in social media, digital marketing. That's a pretty common one,
and works well with remote as well. So.
For sure. So when you say there's a lot of marketing, so is it more kind of that mid-level, or, you know, because I know like with some jobs boards, like it's a real mishmash, like it could be anything from a kitchen hand through to, you know, almost not quite maybe a C-suite, but potentially. So are you seeing that kind of like, is your platform open to anyone, like, you know, I don't want to use levels in a derogatory sense, but do you know what I mean? Like, from something like kitchen hand through to C-suite, like, does your platform accommodate for that? Or are you targeting more at kind of almost mid-level management type positions?
No, we're targeting everything. So we have volunteer positions, we have entry-level positions, all skill levels, and really it runs the gamut of job type. So, you know, there's accounting and finance in there because, you know, that's what I gravitate to. And, you know, there's scientists, there's engineers, there's everything you can think of. Yeah. Everything,
well, people are looking for, when you say more scientists, Paul, sorry to interrupt, Bonnie, did you mean there's more candidates uploading, or there's more employers looking for
them? Food scientists a lot.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have all the way, you know, we even include board seats. So, you know, it's everything. Contractors, you know, we're allowing, you know, anybody that wants to jump in and help the cause is welcome.
Wow. Gosh, it's so exciting because, like, you know, just a few years ago, you just wouldn't have this. You know, there'd be people, you know, obviously more people are wanting to get into this space, but also more people are looking for all these different types of jobs. I think it's really exciting. What types of positions do you anticipate will become more in demand in the future?
I'm seeing a lot of, as people think about bringing their workforce back, they're thinking about hybrid jobs. So, you know, partially work from home, partially in the office type of positions. So in having that flexibility, I think we've really gained that. That's been a positive from COVID, where, you know, employers see the value in having a little bit of home time and a little bit of in the office time. And, you know, the maybe more surprising is that in the office time, people miss that. And so you lose, you know, you really have to value your culture, and you need it. You need to be in the office sometimes. So, you know, I think we can do a lot on Zoom, but, you know, sometimes you just need to be in person.
Yeah.
So, but employers are now wrestling with that model of, you know, doing that hybrid type position.
And it's interesting, we're talking about remote because obviously that has become in 2020 the way of working. And I know, and I agree that I think it's split down the middle. There's people as employees who are keen to get back in the office because they miss that whole vibe. And then there's other employees who are loving working remote and don't want to go back. But it's an interesting one in terms of, what about, for example, so say somebody wants to hire somebody and it's a fully remote position and the candidate may be in another country. Can you talk us through a little bit about what do they need to be aware of in terms of like the legal and financial implications of that?
Oh, yes. So there can be, if you're hiring somebody in another country, a lot of times, if you're just growing into that country, a lot of times it's easier to just hire a PEO, a professional employment organization. They're global PEOs. And so you just go to them, and it's like leasing employees. So that the employee gets their paycheck from them, that they make sure they keep up with all the payroll laws and the benefits laws, and, you know, all of the things that you have to keep up with on the HR side. And so you basically hire through them. You know, you're using that organization to do your HR function essentially. And so they do the tax filings for you.
Right.
And then so you ease into it.
So you wouldn't necessarily recommend someone try to hire someone as an employee if they're in another country. But what about if they're a contractor? Would that
Contractors are fine. Yep, that would work fine. Yeah, and that's I have told people that that's the better way to go. If you have to make sure you don't break the independent contractor rules, but if you're going to try to hire somebody in another country, you have to deal with the fact that they are, under different laws. So, you have to be careful with that. And so you either do it through the PEO or you do independent contractor, and that takes sort of takes the laws off the table.
And I think it depends on the number of hours and stuff as well, doesn't it? Or if I don't know if you can employ someone full time as a contractor. I guess it's all in the wording, but that's obviously, I guess, something that you help people with or can advise them or put them on to people who can advise them about that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's just an interesting one, because I know I've seen a lot of people who are just suddenly the job market's open. If they can do it from home and from a laptop, suddenly, the vegan and plant-based business world has opened up to them even more in terms of employment opportunities. So talk me through, I know you offer some coaching in this that you mentioned. Can you give us a few tips on both to employers and also employers on the application and interview process? What can they do each of them do to maximize a beneficial outcome for everyone?
For candidates on the applicant process, I think what they really need to do is make sure their passion comes through. That is their differentiator. That's, these plant-based companies are looking for people that really believe in the mission. And so they would hire somebody with that passion, whether, they'd hire a vegan that is passionate about it before they would hire a non-vegan. So that passion has to come out and be sincere. And I think that's one bit of advice that I would give to people looking for that position or a position with a mission aligned company. For companies, I think they really need to focus on their culture and make sure when they're hiring, they're hiring people that fit their culture. So that goes hand in hand with making sure they are aligned with the mission. But also, they need to get these people, the candidates, in a room with several people within the company, maybe even ask the same questions of that person, get a feel for who they are, and make sure that they really feel comfortable that they'll fit with the culture. So, that as you grow, that's the hardest thing to keep together.
Is there, I know you talked about, some companies anyway will like to employ vegans, but certainly with some of the bigger plant-based brands, they're quite happy to have non-vegans with massive experience, especially if they're coming from corporates, big corporate companies, because then they get that expertise. So, actually having, whether the person's vegan or not, they're not that, as long as they're keen to move into the plant-based space, or the mission-driven space and share their expertise, not necessarily a requirement for some of those bigger brands that the person is vegan. So on your job site, do you allow people who are not vegan or not yet vegan to, apply and upload and, be part of the process?
Absolutely, yes. We do focus also on people that are environmentalists. Because really someday they need to, come to terms with the fact that you can't not be vegan. Everybody has a journey and we want to meet them wherever they are. We don't want to be exclusionary. And so, I think we tried to do a good job of being inclusive on our site and not come up. I'm not sure we use the word vegan much at all, if at all, on the site. But, people that are working to take animals out of the supply chain, people that care about the environment and sustainability, those are the people that we want coming to our site.
That's cool. So on that, I'm curious then, what about if it's a corporate company that has maybe got a plant, or they want to, they have a plant-based section. So then maybe they've got plant-based products and they want to hire someone to look after the plant-based aspect or, section of that. But they're not necessarily the most ethical company in the world in regards to people or the planet. How would you, given that you screen the jobs, I'm putting you on the spot here, but I'm just curious, how would you handle it? Because, and there's no, not necessarily a wrong answer. I'm just curious, do you say, okay, they're moving in a right direction here. They're really rubbish over here, but, they are looking for someone to work with their plant-based products. We'll put the job on the site. How would you handle that situation?
Let me just say one thing, that there's more and more of that happening. You see these big meat packers, coming into the picture, and suddenly they're setting up divisions of plant-based foods. They see that there's something going on there. The movement really has taken hold, and really around the health of the planet. So it's going to be in the mix. You're going to have that. You're going to have to work with that, and you make your judgments as you go. It's very challenging, but I think leaving the door open is better than being too restrictive, because the mission is really to make this happen. To move to a plant-based platform, food system.
Yeah, and it would be a goal to have those companies, see the value in plant-based.
Yeah.
In the that they can be profitable with that. So the more we help them to be profitable on that side of the business, the better off we are.
Yeah, you have entrepreneurs as well coming into the mix, because it's such a hot topic. All of a sudden, they say, "Oh, I can put a product together and get in on this." So you have people who have no interest in animals or plants or any of that jumping into the game as well recently. So something else to keep an eye on.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So when you say you vet the companies, so even if the company is doing, some things where they are exploiting or using animals in one part of their business, as long as they've got a specific section that is for plant-based, and the job is for that, rather than say, because you might have a company that says it's sustainable or eco-friendly, but maybe it's, I don't know, using sheep's wool or something. I'm assuming you wouldn't necessarily approve that. But if they said, right, we're starting this branch of our brand, which is focused on non-animal based materials, and we want someone to work there, then you would allow the job to go through. Am I?
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Oh, wonderful. Now, as an accountant, Bonnie, and a finance expert with many, many years of experience, what are some of the key mistakes that you see business owners make just within their operations along those lines, and what should they do instead?
So the biggest mistake that I see is with founders, entrepreneurs, trying to do everything themselves. So they I think it's so common. They try to do it all, and they're bootstrapping themselves, trying to make every penny count. And so I understand where it's coming from. But at some point, for the company to flourish, you need to step back and go, I need somebody to be doing, I'm not an accountant. I need somebody to do this for me. And, time and time again, I'll step into a company and they will have, bought a QuickBooks, general ledger, and they're starting to do their own accounting work, and they don't know, they don't understand what they're doing. And, and then, I get called and just save it. So, or, to put it back on track. So,
I'm laughing as you say that, because when we first came to Australia, it'd be nearly 20 years ago now, we came from the UK and we set up our first business. I was doing that. I was using something, we have something here called MYOB, and I was doing all that, and I would do it at the end of each quarter. Like, I couldn't even bear to go in and do it all each day. So I would leave everything because each quarter you have to put in these GST returns. So I would be doing it, and then we would hire someone who was like a sort of kind of bookkeeper consultant. Then they would come in and kind of fix my mess and spend like a day with me to kind of unravel. And my head would be, and I was so stressed by it that the best thing we did, obviously we had an accountant, because my partner Tracy's had businesses over the years, so she was always like, you always have an accountant, don't speak to the tax people directly yourself. But the biggest or one of the biggest things we did that was so good for our business was hiring a bookkeeper to just do all that kind of numbers stuff. So I'm laughing when you did that. Brilliant. Now I know you mentioned, so obviously Bonnie, you've been a chief financial officer, and you, like you say, you step into companies, you do those remote positions, so you don't necessarily go in and have to be an employee. You can do it on a contractual basis. Given that the plant-based space is growing, the vegan business space is growing so much now, we're seeing so many companies getting funding, getting investment. Why is it important for a business to have a CFO, a chief financial officer? And at what stage do you recommend a business have someone like that? Like, does it depend on how many employees they've got? Like, the size of the business, the turnover? What advice can you offer there?
It's really more about the strategy, the future of the company. So you need a CFO definitely if you're going to raise money. And, so that's where the startups, they're trying to do it all themselves, and really they would be wise to have a fractional CFO, an outsourced CFO on the team to help them along, because that gives investors a lot of comfort. And it also helps them with their strategic direction. It helps them with their projections, creating financial statements, and all of those things that you hated doing. And so at that point, when you're raising money, you really need a CFO. If you're a privately held company, you're not going to raise money. You have no bank debt. You really don't need a finance person. Then you could get along with a controller and then maybe a CAO, and be fine with that. But
what's a CAO? Is that Chief Accounting Officer?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm just clarifying, because I know some of the terms might be slightly different for international audiences. Like when you said PEO, I didn't know what they were. We used to call them temp agencies, or just employment agencies, like in the UK or Australia. But, okay, great. So definitely, if you're looking to raise funds of any kind, have some, and it's great that you can offer, like, you don't have to employ somebody full time to do that. You can have what you called a fractional CFO, which is basically an outsource. So the CFO would be a contractor essentially, and you'd either pay for a certain number of hours or something like that. Right.
Because it's an important role. It's an expensive role. And so you want to make sure when you do hire that full-time person, you have the money to do it and you can hire the person you want. So it's really a good use of your money in the beginning, is to just have a fractional CFO. And then, if you're going to go public, and, I've done that. I've taken companies public. And so I've done the raise in private money. I've done the raise in public money. And, once you're public, it's really a good idea to have an in-house CFO, because you've got to be talking to investors all the time. And a lot of that person's job is investor relations. So that sort of changes the game. Once you're there, you kind of need it.
Right.
It's interesting. It sort of started a different trail for us, and Bonnie's involvement in working with some of these entrepreneurs and helping them with their companies. And we got a couple of minutes, so maybe now's a good time to share with you a little bit of exclusivity here.
Yes, I know. I heard you're going to announce. You heard it here first, people. Fabulous. I love that. And a little bit of exclusive. That was going to be my final question. What are your plans for the future? That was going to be my way of leading in, but you've segued beautifully, Paul. So take it away. You're going to announce something which is complements passion placement.
Absolutely. And passion placement will really be a part of this newer entity. We've created a company called New Earth Partners, and that is providing outsourced fractional services. Bonnie, of course, with her experience, bringing that to bear in the plant-based arena. There's nothing like this going on right now. There's such a need for it. That's what we found, that there really is a demand. And so I have a lot of HR experience. Of course, as a CFO, she has as well. And so we've decided to set this up, and we're planning to bring this to publicly announce it in the next probably next couple of weeks, I think, at this point. But we're very excited about it, and the passion placement piece fits in beautifully with the HR component in all that we're doing. So there it is.
So with New Earth Partners, New Earth Partners, you're basically offering fractional, like things like HR services, and accounting and those kind of operational type roles that people may need, that may not be able to afford to hire a person, full time, but can kind of it's almost like an a la carte service in some ways, isn't it? It's like you can have somebody there, and I think that's important, as you say, particularly with as companies start to grow and you start to hire people. I just know from running our business when we first got just hiring employees and all the legal stuff, the OH&S stuff, if you've got a physical location, all the thing, it can be quite complex, and like you say, with one person trying to do it all, it can be quite difficult. So I think it's great that you're offering those kinds of services on an as needed basis.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
Sorry. It also helps them to conserve cash, so they don't need to hire somebody full time and they can figure it out when they need to hire that person, they can, and we can help them with that too.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it's been particularly interesting in terms of working with the newer companies coming into the mix. It's so important to get your financials straight if you're looking for capital anywhere. If you go into that arena and your evaluation is way off, your numbers just don't make any. Numbers are universal. And people can read a good financial statement in any country, and most often, not quite frequently in U.S. dollars, but that doesn't matter. Getting that nailed down and getting that straight, it's so worth the investment up front because it's the future. That's what opens the door.
That's so true. I mean, I watch things like Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, and all of them like say, that one of the main criticisms they have of the contestants is your valuation is way too high. Where did you get this from? And it gets them on the wrong, in the wrong vibe to give the contestants investments. So I think you're right. That's really important things, and not everyone has those skills. It is a particular skill set. I mean, most people can maybe do basic numbers, but when it gets kind of complex like that and these systems, I think you've got to kind of go to your strengths and hire those who are better at numbers and figures, for example, than you are. And so I think it's great that you're offering these services, like you say, on an as needed basis. So how very exciting. So you heard it here first on Vegan Business Talk, New Earth Partners, and the website for that is newearthpartners.com. And you can find out more about Passion Placement at passionatplacement.com. If you're watching this episode, that is scrolling along the bottom of your screen. And if you're listening to the audio, you can find the links to both of those on the show notes page for this episode. Bonnie and Paul, it's been lovely speaking with you. I'm really excited. I'm loving seeing these new innovations and services that are coming about for mission-driven brands, and particularly, you're both vegan yourself. I think it's wonderful. So thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your expertise.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us. It was our pleasure.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Bye for now.